Procrastination is not just a habit, it is a deep, unconscious mechanism we create to avoid discomfort. We have convinced ourselves that we will do things tomorrow, as if tomorrow has some magical power to transform the present. The truth is, tomorrow is just a myth. The only time that exists is now. You see, every task requires energy, but when you put it off, you are not saving energy. No, you are actually wasting it. You drain yourself more by resisting than by doing. That energy you could have used to accomplish something is now spent in mental battles, and the more you delay, the less energy you have to take action. Time is not something that can be managed by pushing it away or pretending it is endless. Time is a concept. It is a creation of the mind. When you say tomorrow, you are not addressing time. You are addressing your fear of the present. The only moment that can change anything is now. If you do not act in the present, you will never feel the liberation of doing. The simple truth is this: action is freedom. Procrastination shackles you to your own mind, but action is what unlocks those chains. It does not matter how small the action is. A single step forward is a victory over procrastination. Even if it's just one small task, taking that step frees you from the mental prison of delay. We often confuse discipline with restriction, but true discipline is not about control or punishment. It is about realizing that your actions shape your reality. The more disciplined you are in taking action, the more you experience freedom, because you are no longer bound by the fear of failure or the hesitation to begin. But the real key to ending procrastination is presence. When you are truly present with the task at hand, there is no room for hesitation. There is no mind wandering to the next moment, to the next day, to the next task. In that presence, the task itself becomes effortless. You engage not with the result, but with the process, and in that process you will find peace. So, the next time you feel the pull of procrastination, recognize it for what it is, an illusion of the mind. Step out of that illusion, embrace the present moment, and take action. You have nothing to lose, only the freedom that comes with doing. Procrastination is often seen as a mere bad habit or lack of discipline, but in reality, it is something much deeper. It is not simply about choosing to delay. It stems from an internal disconnect between your mind and the tasks that lie before you. Most people are unaware that procrastination originates from an unconscious resistance to discomfort. The mind avoids things that it associates with effort, difficulty, or unpleasantness, even if those things are ultimately necessary for growth. When you put something off, it is not because you are lazy or disorganized. It is because, at some level, you are trying to protect yourself from the discomfort of starting. The moment you think of a task, the mind scans it for the potential stress, strain, or effort it may require, and in response it creates an internal blockage. This leads to a delay in action because the mind would rather choose to avoid the discomfort of that effort than to face it head on. In reality, procrastination is a defense mechanism, a way of escaping the discomfort of the present. But this avoidance doesn't solve anything. In fact, it makes the task loom larger, more daunting, and more intimidating over time. Each moment spent avoiding the task strengthens the belief that it is something you cannot handle, which only feeds the procrastination cycle. The root of procrastination, therefore, is not laziness but fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of the effort required. The mind resists action because it doesn't want to face these fears. Yet, what it fails to realize is that by avoiding, it is only feeding these fears and magnifying the very thing it wishes to avoid. So, understanding this deeper truth is the first step in overcoming procrastination. It's not just about pushing through, it's about recognizing that the resistance you feel is a construct of the mind, and the only way to dissolve it is by taking action. Procrastination is often misunderstood as simply delaying tasks or being lazy, but the truth is far more complex. It is rooted in a disconnect between the mind and action. The mind, in its natural state, is constantly seeking comfort and avoiding discomfort. This is where procrastination begins. When you think of a task, your mind immediately evaluates it based on how much discomfort it will bring. The more challenging or mentally taxing the task seems, the more resistance the mind creates. This resistance is not merely an act of avoidance, but an unconscious attempt to protect you from what the mind perceives as stress, failure, or struggle. But here lies the paradox. The very act of avoiding creates more stress in the long run. The discomfort of procrastination doesn't disappear, it intensifies. The longer you delay, the bigger the task becomes in your mind, and the more energy is required to confront it. It's like carrying a weight around for hours, convincing yourself that you will put it down soon, but never doing so. Furthermore, procrastination also comes from a fear of judgment or failure. When faced with a task, especially one that has high stakes or the potential for visible results, the mind starts to fear the outcome. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? These questions surface when you're about to begin, and the fear of them stops you from starting. The longer you procrastinate, the more time your mind has to build up these fears, convincing you that it's safer to stay in the state of inaction than to face the discomfort of starting. This is why procrastination is not simply about lack of willpower or being lazy. It is a form of avoidance rooted in deeper psychological patterns that seek to preserve comfort at the expense of progress. Understanding this root cause is key because it allows you to recognize procrastination not as an enemy, but as a signal. It is the mind's way of telling you that there is something within you that needs to be addressed. The resistance you feel is not to be avoided, but understood and moved through by taking action, no matter how small. When you confront the discomfort, you break the cycle of procrastination, and what once seemed like a monumental task becomes manageable. Procrastination is a behavior deeply tied to how we perceive time. When you procrastinate, you aren't just delaying tasks. You are also surrendering to an illusion that time is something you can control or push away. The mind convinces you that there is an endless stream of time available, which leads you to think, "I will do it later." But what you fail to see in that moment is that later is a construct of the mind, not an actual reality. Time is not something you can manipulate or control at will. It is an ongoing process that doesn't pause for your convenience. Each time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you are not acknowledging the fact that tomorrow is a continuation of today. It is a product of the present moment. The more you delay, the more fragmented your sense of time becomes, and the more you distance yourself from the reality of your commitments. The task you delay doesn't simply sit there waiting for you to begin. It accumulates in your mind, growing larger, heavier, and more intimidating with each passing moment. The longer you put it off, the more pressure and anxiety you create around it. This illusion of time makes procrastination even more insidious because the task doesn't just disappear. It sits there in the back of your mind, eating away at your energy. Every time you think about it and choose not to act, you drain yourself further. Your mind is constantly engaged in a low-level battle of avoidance, and this drains you of the clarity and energy needed to take any kind of meaningful action. Furthermore, the illusion of time lulls you into a false sense of security. You feel that you have all the time in the world when in fact the only real time you have is now. Each moment you delay becomes a moment you cannot get back. In reality, the only thing that exists is the present. The future is simply a projection of the mind, a series of moments that haven't yet arrived. This disconnect between how we think about time and how time actually functions is one of the root causes of procrastination. By not acting in the present, we not only delay our tasks but also limit our potential for growth. To overcome procrastination, you must confront the reality of time. Recognize that every moment is fleeting, and the only true moment you have is the one you are in right now. Understanding this allows you to break free from the illusion that you can put things off indefinitely and empowers you to take action in the present. Time waits for no one, and procrastination only serves to rob you of the opportunity to make the most of it. Procrastination is often rooted in an unconscious belief that we can somehow control the future. When you procrastinate, you are acting under the illusion that you can keep pushing something forward and that the future will magically make things easier. However, this mindset is deeply flawed. The truth is, action is the key to breaking free from procrastination, not the postponement of effort. The simple reality is that no matter how daunting a task may seem, it will always remain stuck in your mind until you take action. When you delay a task, you may believe that by avoiding it, you are avoiding the difficulty or discomfort associated with it. But what you fail to realize is that the discomfort doesn't disappear, it simply intensifies. The longer you avoid something, the more mental space it occupies. You think about it over and over, telling yourself you'll do it later, but in reality, you're prolonging the discomfort and creating a greater burden. Action, no matter how small, is the only way to break the cycle. By taking action, even if it's just a small step, you free yourself from the prison of your own thoughts. When you act, the mind has no choice but to focus on the task at hand. The internal resistance dissipates the moment you begin. The act of moving forward, no matter how incremental, releases the tension and fear that comes with inaction. You shift from a state of avoidance to a state of doing, and that simple shift is liberating. The key to overcoming procrastination is understanding that you are not bound by your thoughts or fears. They are just fleeting impulses that have no real power over you unless you allow them to. By taking action, you take back your power. You stop being controlled by the worry of the task and start engaging with it. Even a small movement towards the task dissolves the illusion that the task is insurmountable. The more you act, the more momentum you build, and the easier it becomes to continue. Action is the doorway to freedom. Procrastination keeps you locked in a cycle of fear and avoidance, but action opens up a path to progress. When you begin, even in the smallest of ways, you take the first step towards breaking the cycle. And with each step, you become freer, more empowered, and more in control of your own life. The more you realize this truth, the more you will see that there is no task too daunting when you are willing to simply begin. True discipline is often misunderstood. We tend to think of discipline as something rigid, restrictive, and punishing. But in reality, discipline is the act of making conscious choices in alignment with your goals and well-being. It's not about forcing yourself into a mold or adhering to a set of rules for the sake of rules. It's about understanding that every action you take or fail to take has a consequence. In this light, discipline becomes a natural expression of your deeper desires and intentions rather than an external imposition. When it comes to procrastination, discipline is not about forcefully overcoming resistance. It is about recognizing that the resistance you feel is temporary and that by taking small, deliberate actions, you can slowly dissolve it. Procrastination thrives on the belief that the task ahead is something you must fight against, that it's a battle you must win, but this mindset only feeds the struggle. In reality, every time you postpone action, you reinforce the cycle of avoidance and fear. What discipline offers is a path that transcends this internal battle. Through discipline, you learn to shift your focus from the discomfort of beginning a task to the satisfaction of completing it. It's not about forcing yourself to act against your will. It's about reprogramming your mind to recognize that taking action brings more freedom and peace than putting it off. You are no longer bound by the resistance of the mind, but instead, you are guided by your deeper sense of purpose. The more you practice this discipline, the more it becomes second nature. It's not a matter of struggling with yourself every time you have a task to complete. It's about developing a flow, an understanding that every action is a step towards something greater. Discipline, when cultivated in this way, liberates you from the anxiety and chaos of procrastination. It makes you realize that you are not imprisoned by your desires, distractions, or fears. Rather, you are the one who shapes your reality through consistent, mindful action. The beauty of true discipline is that it doesn't restrict you, it frees you. As you practice it, you find that you have more time, more energy, and more clarity. The more disciplined you become in taking consistent action, the less you will be plagued by procrastination. Instead of seeing tasks as burdens, you begin to see them as opportunities to create, to move forward, and to expand your potential. In this way, discipline becomes the ultimate form of freedom. The power of presence is often underestimated in overcoming procrastination. Most people think they can deal with tasks later, under the assumption that they can manage them in the future when they have more time or energy. But the truth is, this mindset is deeply disconnected from reality. The present moment is the only time in which you can take action. The moment you step into the present, all distractions and excuses fade away. You no longer need to worry about the consequences of tomorrow or the burden of the past. You are simply engaged with what is in front of you, and that is where true power lies. When you are truly present, the task in front of you loses its ability to overwhelm you. You stop focusing on how big or difficult it might be, and you simply begin. Presence allows you to step away from the noise of the mind, which often amplifies fear, resistance, and doubt. In that state of awareness, there is no room for procrastination. The mind may try to resist, but you are grounded in the now, and you recognize that the only way to dissolve that resistance is to act within the moment. The challenge with procrastination is that it thrives on the illusion that there is always more time. The mind projects future moments, imagining that things will be easier later on, but the future is just an illusion. It's a collection of imagined moments that have not yet arrived. When you become present, you no longer give space for this illusion to govern your decisions. You realize that the task at hand is not an abstract concept to be worried about later, but something that exists in the present, ready to be addressed with your full attention. Presence also helps you bypass the mental chatter that accompanies procrastination. That nagging voice telling you to delay, to wait for the perfect moment, is silenced when you become fully immersed in the task. The more you practice this presence, the less you become controlled by the habitual thoughts of procrastination. You become a conscious participant in your actions, fully engaged with each step, no matter how small. Being present also means fully experiencing the process, not just the result. Often, procrastination arises because we focus too much on the end goal, on what success will look like. But when you immerse yourself in the task at hand, the focus shifts. You begin to enjoy the flow of the work, not because of what it will bring in the future, but because of what it offers in the moment. In this way, the very act of doing becomes rewarding, and procrastination is rendered unnecessary. The power of presence is your gateway out of procrastination. When you choose to step fully into the moment, you free yourself from the burden of tomorrow and open yourself to the potential of now. Every task becomes an opportunity to experience life more deeply, to move beyond mental blocks, and to engage with the process itself rather than avoiding it. And in doing so, you begin to master your actions, and procrastination loses its hold over you. In conclusion, procrastination is not simply about delay. It is a reflection of deeper psychological patterns, illusions, and resistance that we create in our own minds. It stems from a disconnect between the present moment and the tasks before us, a fear of discomfort, and an illusion of time that convinces us we can always push things later. The truth is that only through action, discipline, presence, and understanding can we truly overcome this cycle of avoidance. When we begin to recognize procrastination for what it is, we free ourselves from its grip. By stepping into the present, taking small yet deliberate actions, and understanding that each task is an opportunity to grow, we break the chain of hesitation. Discipline, not as a forceful constraint, but as a natural alignment of our actions with our intentions, allows us to transcend procrastination. Presence enables us to dissolve the mind's resistance and engage fully with the moment, making every task a part of our journey rather than a burden to be avoided. Ultimately, procrastination is not a force beyond our control. It is a choice, a moment where we either face the task at hand or give in to our fears and distractions. The key lies in understanding that the only moment that truly exists is now. When we embrace the present, take action, and practice discipline, we say goodbye to procrastination and move toward the freedom that comes with taking charge of our own lives.